I'm William Holtz with Lake TV, and I'm excited to welcome you to a very important night of local forums right here on Lake TV, presented by SRG Financial Advisors, the home of the mile marker formula. A big shout out to the Lake Area Chamber of Commerce for collaborating with us on tonight's forum, as well as our official news partners, the Business Journal. Now, as much as we all complain and let our opinions be known on the national politics, it should go without saying that our local elected officials are the ones that affect us the most. Tonight's forum will include candidates for Camden County, including the presiding commissioner, clerk of the circuit court, associate circuit court judge, circuit judge of the 26th Circuit, prosecuting attorney, associate circuit judge Division 4, auditor, collector, county clerk, and the recorder of deeds. With that being said, we applaud you for tuning in and getting involved. Tonight's broadcast on Lake TV is presented by SRG Financial Advisors, the home of the mile marker formula, and brought to you by these generous sponsors. Now, sit back and get ready for a great night of getting to know the candidates. At this point, I'm honored to turn it over to our moderator for tonight, broadcasting live from the Encore Lakeside Grill and Sky Bar, Luke Hagedorn.
Thank you, Will. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 2022 Meet the Candidates Forum for the Division 5 Associate Circuit Judge and Prosecuting Attorney election to be held on Tuesday, August 2nd. This joint forum is the result of a collaborative effort by the Lake Area Chamber of Commerce and is presented by Lake TV. We welcome all the viewers who are joining us either online or live on Lake TV. There will be 2 candidates on the ballot for each position, and we are pleased to have all candidates in attendance this evening. First, for Associate Circuit Judge, we have Heather Miller and Ryan Bridges. For Prosecuting Attorney, we have Caleb Cunningham and Rochelle Christensen Grosvenor. Thank you for joining us this evening. On behalf of the Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, Lake TV, and the voters of Camden County, I would like to thank you for your attendance and participation and look forward to getting to know each of you a bit better to learn your thoughts and views on the judiciary and your role on the bench. Before we get started, we have a few ground rules to cover. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for opening and closing statements and 1 minute to respond to the selected questions. We have a timekeeper and a clock up front. Once the question is completed and the response begins, the clock will start. Please be aware of your time, or I will be obliged to make you aware. I will let you finish your thought in a reasonable amount of time. If you start a new one after the time elapsed, I will have to intervene. If there are no questions or concerns, we'll get started with our opening comments. Again, each candidate will have 2 minutes. As determined by random draw, our first speaker will be Ryan Bridges. Mr. Bridges, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Bridges. I'm running for Associate Circuit Judge of Camden County. I'm a lifelong Camden County resident, graduating from Osage in 1999. I went to Rockhurst University in Kansas City and got a degree in mathematics with a minor in history. And after attending law school at UMKC, I came home and started running a practice. I've been an attorney for 15 years. In that 15 years, I've handled just about every different area of law that an associate judge is going to handle. And that was by necessity. I graduated law school in 2007, and the market crashed pretty hard right after that, and you couldn't really say no to work. And so you took in the cases and you learned how to do the job. And I think that well-rounded experience in the law would be a benefit as an associate circuit judge because they handle a wide variety of different cases. I'm married to my wife, Jessica. We've been married also for 15 years. We kind of did everything in 2007. And I have 2 children, Eleanor and Nicholas, who currently attend Osage. Once again, my name is Ryan Bridges. I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next candidate with an opening statement will be Heather Miller. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Heather Miller, and I am your current Associate Circuit Judge for Camden County. I've been serving in the role for the last year and a half. Prior to that, I was your elected prosecuting attorney, and I served in that office for about 9 years. What sets me apart for this experience, what makes me uniquely qualified to be your judge, is my experience. So, associate circuit judges handle all the beginning of criminal cases. With almost just a decade of experience in criminal law and prosecution, I understand the risks, which means that I can set appropriate bonds, not only to ensure appearances at court, but also, most importantly, to ensure the safety of our community. I've reviewed thousands of search warrants, which is important not only to the integrity of the case, but also to protecting the search and seizure rights of our citizens. I helped found the Camden County Treatment Courts in 2017, and now as a judge, I preside over them to help continue their success. For the last year and a half, I have been the family court judge for Camden County. I've presided over hundreds of property cases, landlord-tenant law, restraining orders, civil matters, small claims, and probate. Apart from my experience, it is my expertise that helps to set me apart. I have been recognized across the state for my expertise in these matters. And finally, a good helping of common sense. I understand the real-world costs of being involved in the judicial system, which is why in the time that I've been on the bench, I've cleared over 2 years of backlog of cases. I've expanded court operating hours so that people can access the courts before and after work. I have utilized expanded technology and removed meaningless court dates to make sure that all people have access to their court systems. And that's why on August 2nd that I'm asking for your vote, so that I can continue to serve the people and the county that I love.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the candidates for prosecuting attorney, we will start with Rochelle Christensen Grosvenor. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I am Rochelle Christensen Grosvenor. I would like to tell you about my first murder trial. As I was thinking about it today, it's been almost 20 years ago. A 3-year-old little girl named Sarah was rushed to the emergency room. The ER nurse testified that when she came in, she thought that Sarah had Dalmatian pajamas on and was horrified to learn that those were not pajamas at all, but actually bruises. Sarah had been beaten to death. It was my first murder trial, as I said, as a prosecuting attorney. It was a complicated, difficult case because Sarah had other people with her when she died, and they were all pointing the finger at each other and blaming the other one. The defendant's attorney knew it was a complicated case for me as a prosecutor and tried to get me to plead it out, and I refused. We took the case to jury trial. I did, and with law enforcement and thanks to the jury, he was convicted of murder and sent to prison for life. So why am I telling you about this? Because it's an example of who and what I am as a prosecuting attorney. Seek justice and hold the criminals accountable. Now, when I'm in your position as a viewer and a voter, what do I want to know about the people running? Well, first of all, it's, do you have the ability to do the job? So experience, that kind of thing. The second thing is, if you have the experience, are you the kind of person that I want to have that job? So, for example, are you honest? Are you a person of integrity and ethics? And we do have kind of a short time this evening, but during my question and answer period, I want to address those specific things, my experience and who I am. And I will ask for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final candidate for prosecuting attorney, Mr. Caleb Cunningham. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I appreciate the hosts and the viewers for tuning in tonight. My name is Caleb Cunningham, and I am a lifelong conservative Republican. I am a life member of the NRA because I believe in everybody's right to bear arms to protect themselves and their family. I'm a farmer in Max Creek, and I'm dedicated to this community. I serve on multiple charities, including Medical Missions for Christ, Share the Harvest Food Pantry, and the Lake Area Industries in my free time. The biggest reason that I'm sitting in this chair is because of the extraordinary team that has been put together over many years that I have the great privilege of serving with. It has been the honor of my life to be your Camden County prosecuting attorney and to serve with the men and women day in and day out who seek justice for victims, who work with our partners in law enforcement at the hospital, CADV, and Kids Harbor to give voice to the victims, to seek justice to the offenders. This year alone, my team has secured 3 life sentences, the most in Camden County's history, this year alone. Last year, we were fortunate enough to be awarded the DWI Hero of the Year for the entire state of Missouri for our tireless efforts to help enforcement and prosecution of DWIs. I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd because my team and I have committed our lives to serving you, to seeking justice and giving voice to the victims, to standing shoulder to shoulder with men and women of law enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We put a call out to the community for pertinent questions regarding this particular election. We had a great number of questions submitted and had to make some tough choices to pare it down in the interest of time. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the selected questions, and we'll start out with some general questions that'll go for all candidates. Later on, we may get into specific ones to each of the races, but we'll work in order there. Ryan, you started with this, so we're going to start with you, Heather, and we'll kind of work our way down that way, and we'll just kind of rotate the starting one on each one if that works for everybody. And until I say otherwise, these questions are going to be for all candidates. Like I said, later on, I may get into specific ones for each race. So let's start out with a very general one, again, starting with you, Heather. Many people in Camden County are not originally from the area. What brought you here or kept you in the Lake area?
So as I used to tell the juries, you can tell by my accent that I'm not lucky enough to be originally from here. I'm originally from the state of Alaska. My story on how I got here is kind of a unique one. My previous job, becoming a lawyer, is I was a boat captain. I met my husband, who is from here, when he ran away to Alaska, and we both were boat captains in the same boat harbor. We did that for many years, traveled all over the United States, but all along we knew that we wanted to have a family, and that's really hard to do when you don't see each other for 4 months at a time. His family have traditionally been attorneys, and so I got to observe and see the way that his father impacted his community, and I knew that when it was time for us to come ashore, that that's what I wanted to do. And there was no question about where we were going to live. From the time we got together, we knew that we wanted to raise our family at the Lake of the Ozarks. This is a place that has the same values, the beauty, the recreation, and everything that we want for our kids. And so in 2012, after we graduated law school, we came back to the place that we had known was going to be home for a long time.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Rochelle. Many people in Camden County are not originally from the area. What brought you here or kept you in the Lake area?
I actually was born and raised in Montana. I am adopted, and I was adopted in Montana, but my mom's side of the family is all from Missouri. So every year we would come to Missouri and we would vacation. I remember being on the Strip whenever I was little with the games, and just really enjoyed time with family in Missouri. So when it came time to decide what I was going to be when I grew up, I've talked about this before, I watched Law and Order and decided I was going to be a prosecutor. And Missouri had one of the best criminal justice programs in Warrensburg. So I moved to Missouri, where my family is, and I have stayed here ever since. I've lived and worked in the Lake area since graduating from law school in 2000. My husband and I live and work here. Both of our kids graduated from high school here. I'm lucky enough to have my daughter with me tonight, but she's home from college at the United States Naval Academy. And we just love the Lake area, and I'm excited to be your next prosecutor to keep us safe. Thank you.
Next up, candidate for prosecutor, the incumbent, Caleb Cunningham. Many people in Camden County are not originally from the area. What brought you here or kept you in the Lake area?
Well, like so many, I was not fortunate enough to be born here. I moved here to become an assistant prosecutor with the prosecutor's office in 2017 and fell in love with the place very quickly. Early on, I was with Leadership Camden County, and we did a tour of the county and met folks from all over the county, and it just reminded me this is where I want to be, working with the charities and the people that care so much, and the families that I've met, and the farmers who have helped me learn how to grow stuff out of rocks in Missouri. I am indebted to forever. This is my home. This is where I plan to stay. Truly one of the best places in the earth to be, and with the opportunities that we see day in and day out, it's truly a magical place to be. Every chance I get, I go to Tonka. I think it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. We are truly blessed to have some wonderful wildlife here. The hunting and fishing is phenomenal, but you still have some population centers to provide those accoutrements that we've all become to like so much. So that is why I'm here.
Finally, candidate for Associate Circuit Judge, Ryan Bridges. Many people in Camden County are not originally from the area. What brought you here or kept you in the Lake area?
Well, I was actually born at St. Mary's in Jefferson City, and then 5 days later, I was brought home. So I've lived in Camden County almost my entire life. It was never any plan to not continue to live here. This place is completely unique from everywhere else. The lake is unique in how it operates, where you can have as large of a boat as you can get on the water is allowed, and it just really is a unique place to live, to visit, and I always wanted to have my home here. My first job was at a go-kart track in Osage Beach, and then later that year I started working at a restaurant on Horseshoe Bend, and that's where I met my wife. We always are going to come home, and after we got done with our respective educations, we immediately came back home, bought our first house, started raising a family, and the schools of this area are so fantastic. I was blessed to be one of them, and so will my children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sticking with the questions to all candidates, and Rochelle will start us off on this one. How would you prepare yourself to handle a case involving unfamiliar areas of the law?
So I am very lucky to have 22 years of legal experience, 22 years of criminal law experience. I was appointed as a prosecutor in a small county, Marys County, which is where my mom's side of the family is. I was only a year out of law school or less at that time. That was absolutely trial by fire. That's the murder trial that I was talking about previously. And since then, my 22 years, it would be difficult to find a case, a criminal case that I have not prosecuted or worked on. If there did happen to be something that was new or something I was unfamiliar with, our field is actually really helpful with each other. But like I said, I am just so thankful that I have my 22 years of criminal law experience that I can bring to this job, and really there's just not a lot that I haven't already handled in the criminal law realm.
Very good. Mr. Cunningham, how would you prepare yourself to handle a case involving unfamiliar areas of the law?
Well, my team and I have almost 100 years of legal experience between us, and so one thing we do is we do staffing where we talk about cases that are coming up that may be unique and get the feel of the different attorneys. I think that helps us prepare, one, against whatever the defense is going to be bringing, but making sure that we file the right charge, which is one of the things that we do as the prosecutor's office, is working with law enforcement to make sure we've got the facts that we need, that it fits the law, and that we can move forward and secure a conviction. With my team and I, there's very few things we haven't come across, but there is an organization called the Missouri Office of Prosecution Services, which we are involved with, that also provide resources to prosecutors the state over. They're a wealth of information in addition to the team that I work with that I'm so fortunate to work with every day. Thank you.
Very good. Coming down to Mr. Ryan Bridges, how would you prepare yourself to handle a case involving unfamiliar areas of the law?
Well, I am lucky enough to have 15 years of a wide range of experiences, but I think in any case, whether you're familiar with the law or not familiar with that particular area of law, you have to be willing to be educated again. You have to continue to want to learn more. There's a reason why we call it the practice of law, and that's because you're never not continuing to learn and grow and understand new areas. And so you need, as a judge, if you're not familiar with the type of law the case is for you, you need to do the research on that particular law to get brought up to speed, and you have to be humble enough to understand that you don't know that area of law and recognize the need to research that particular case.
And finally on that question, Heather Miller, make sure I get it right. How would you prepare yourself to handle a case involving unfamiliar areas of the law?
So I think that Mr. Bridges is right in that no matter how much of experience you have or how wide of range experience that you have, it comes down to that being a good base of knowledge. The practice of law and the job of attorneys is to find new legal theories that can benefit their clients. As a judge, one of the primary functions of my job is to be prepared for every case. That means before every court date, I go through the docket. I make sure that if there's something new or novel, that I've done preliminary research. And that way, when attorneys present their arguments to me, I'm knowledgeable about the case law that they're presenting. I'm knowledgeable about the parameters that we're talking about. And I can hear those arguments from a place of education and knowledge and move forward with that. there is no room for ego in this business. As a judge, you are a servant to the community, and it is your job, if you don't understand something, to be able to say, I need more time. I'm going to take this under advisement and do some further research, and I'll get back to you when I have the information to make a full and correct and just decision.
Very good. We're going to stick with the judge candidates here, so you can keep that microphone for a second. We're going to do a couple just for the judge candidates for the Associate Circuit Judge. Start with you, Heather Miller. If elected or re-elected to the position you seek, what is the minimum number of years you intend to serve before seeking a judicial post at a higher level? What is your commitment to serving out the full term?
I am fully committed to being an associate circuit judge. I have no aspirations for higher circuit levels or appellate levels or anything else. This is the position that I want in our community. It is a unique position that focuses on my home, Camden County. It's a position that allows me to be a family law judge, to set bonds, to deal with criminal cases, to deal with restraining orders, and to deal with our community on a person-to-person level, to help ensure that they have access and understanding of our court system, and to work with them to ensure that they have full faith and credit in their judicial system.
Ryan Bridges, if elected to the position you seek, what is the minimum number of years you intend to serve before seeking a judicial post at a higher level? What is your commitment to serving out the full term?
Well, like I said, I've lived here my entire life, and I'm taking this position to be this county's associate court judge until the time that the voters decide they want somebody else in that position. If elected, I will not ever seek another elected position in my life. I will always remain your associate circuit judge until the time comes for me to either retire or the people decide there's a better candidate out there. Even if I am approached by the governor's office or any other entity that wants to appoint me to another position, if it becomes available, I will not allow that appointment to occur. I will not accept that appointment. My goal is to provide stability for this county and to use the long-term commitment that I have to Camden County to fix any issues that we have.
Very good. Sticking with the judges for one more here. And so, Ryan, you'll start us off. Who are your judicial role models and why?
I consider myself an originalist when interpreting law, and so I really do look for a lot of Antonin Scalia's logic and how he writes his opinions, how he does his research. And more recently, you're getting to hear a lot more from Clarence Thomas, and so I'm getting to get a better understanding of his beliefs and thoughts. And so I'm really, those are the two individuals right now that when I look at how judges interpret law, how they interpret the Constitution, how they apply that to the facts, those are the two individuals I most admire and how they do that.
Moving on, Judge Heather Miller, who are your judicial role models and why?
Well, like Mr. Bridges, I also consider myself an originalist. I don't believe in activist judging. However, as an associate circuit judge, I think it's important to focus on more local examples. And we've had some pretty amazing judges in the past. And the example that they've set for our community, judges like Mary Dickerson, judges like Stan Moore, judges who have put the needs of the community first, who have made sure that everybody that comes into the courtroom is respected and heard, that is consistent in their rulings, that holds people accountable, that makes sure that the community knows what they have an associate circuit judge, can depend on them, and will continue to serve in Camden County for as long as they are physically able to do so. And that's what I aspire to as your associate circuit judge.
All right, we'll give the judge candidates a little break here and move on to the prosecuting attorney candidates. For a couple quick ones, we'll start with Rochelle on this one. How can a prosecuting attorney reduce recidivism in the offenders prosecuted by the office?
So I would definitely describe myself as a tough on crime prosecutor. I have talked previously about the idea that criminals will talk to each other. They understand whether the prosecutor's office is tough on crime or not. And if you have a prosecutor's office, which I did have, that was tough on crime, the criminals know it and they will go somewhere else. It's really important as a prosecutor to make sure that as I indicated before, that we are holding criminals accountable. That's just the absolute number one job. And when you do that and you do it appropriately, then you can reduce the amount of reoffenders because you have dealt with them appropriately from the beginning. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not a place for understanding if it's someone's first offense, for example. And all of those things come into consideration for each individual defendant, but making sure that we toe the line and are consistent and consistently tough on crime is the way to do that.
Mr. Caleb Cunningham, how can the prosecuting attorney reduce recidivism in the offenders prosecuted by the office?
One of the things we do is ask, why do people offend? And unfortunately, the motivation to a lot of offenses are substance use disorders. So people who have an alcohol problem or a drug problem. And unfortunately, in our community, so many of our family members have been taken from us by drugs and alcohol. I was one of the founding members of the treatment court teams in Camden County. We do have a DWI court, a drug court, and a veterans court. I'm particularly proud of the Veterans Court and our ability to rehabilitate these folks using a little more resource to save time and money later on. So if they successfully complete this program, the national statistics are very good that they will not reoffend and that we won't have to deal with them again. So that's one way we reduce recidivism. Another way is, for instance, one of the guys who got a life sentence this year had a very extensive criminal history. He will spend the rest of his life in prison, and so we don't have to worry about him anymore. Thank you.
All right, staying with the prosecuting attorney candidates, and so Mr. Cunningham, you'll be going first on this one. What does transparency mean to you as it applies to the office of prosecuting attorney?
So transparency is one of those words that people throw around. One thing that we have tried to do is be more active in the community so people can see what we're doing. We talk more about the cases that are being moved, the things that we're doing to try to help both the court system and the judiciary accomplish things. We're out in the community so people can ask us questions, so people can talk to us, both of our civic organizations and things of that nature, but also through press releases. We've done a tremendous amount of press releases over the last year and a half, talking about cases and accomplishments, but also some of the things that we've planned to do. And I think that will continue into the future. Thank you.
Rochelle, what does transparency mean to you as it applies to the office of prosecuting attorney?
I truly believe that when people elect someone to be in a certain position, they expect there to be that transparency that we're talking about. Now, as far as the prosecuting attorney's office goes, there is limits on what can be shared publicly. But it's really important that people in the community get a sense of what's happening in the prosecuting attorney's office, that they are made aware of what is happening. Specifically victims, making sure that victims are notified properly and that they have the proper input. But also, people are very confused about our criminal justice system. And I spend a lot of time just in very basic conversations with people, just trying to explain how the system works. And that is really, really important, particularly, like I said, with victims, people who are thrown into a situation that they don't completely understand. So communication truly is key with the public and with the people who are involved in the prosecutor's office.
Thank you very much. Going back to the general questions, this will be for all four candidates, both prosecuting attorney as well as associate circuit judge candidates. We'll start down here with Ryan Bridges. What has been your greatest legal accomplishment thus far in your career? How has that shaped your legal philosophy going forward?
Well, I think one of the cases I'm most proud of was actually my first year out of law school. So in 2007, GALs didn't go to class and get a certificate and file affidavits. You were the youngest attorney in the room, and the judge would pick you and make you go do it. And so I got appointed to a case where there was an allegation of abuse on the children in the matter, and that's whom I was representing. And after going through the individual interviews with each party and the children, and then going into a deep dive research into all of the DHS records, it was over 1,000 pages I got from the Springfield DHS. In the middle of those 1,000 pages, I found that one of the individuals had been arrested and convicted of a crime in California, and the language of that crime was similar to a statute in Missouri that would have precluded him getting any visitation rights. And so I was able to find things that other attorneys weren't able to find, and that gave me the confidence going forward that I knew what I was doing and that I'd be a good attorney going forward.
Judge Heather Miller, what has been your greatest legal accomplishment thus far in your career? How has that shaped your legal philosophy going forward?
My proudest accomplishment was one of my first kid cases, a child sex case that I handled on my own. I'd always known that this was a type of law that was important to me as the mother of two kids. I think that that's one of the most important case types that we can handle. And so for several years, I shadowed other more experienced attorneys to know how I would do that correctly. My first case, the victim in that case was a young girl. And when I first met her, she was so scared and damaged that she wouldn't look up. She came into the prosecutor's office every day with a stuffed animal. She wouldn't speak. And we were really worried how that was going to work when she had to testify against her abuser. But by working with her, by working with the family, by working with law enforcement to make sure that she was not responsible to prove the case, that others could stand up and bear that evidentiary burden, we were able not only to get a successful, substantial conviction in that case, but when that case was done, that girl stood high. She was proud of herself. She was proud of standing up in what she did in court. She has gone on to be successful in her education and her career, and she keeps in touch with me in my office. And knowing the difference that one case can make in one person's life has meant the world to me and has shaped why I do what I do.
Rochelle, what has been your greatest legal accomplishment thus far in your career, and how has that shaped your legal philosophy going forward?
My greatest legal accomplishment would be when I was appointed to be the prosecutor of Marys County. As I described, it was less than a year after passing the bar. And when you're appointed to a small county like that, it was me as the prosecutor, and it was one secretary. And during my time there, I tried jury trial cases, everything from robbery, burglary, murder, as I talked about the devastating murder case. I tried stealing, the countless jury trials. And as the chief deputy of Camden County, I also got the opportunity to try a lot of cases. I took on the difficult cases, and I have a 100% conviction rate as a prosecutor. And that is really important to me. It formed my philosophy that you just have to be willing to try the tough ones, make a stand, and let people know that you are serious about being tough on crime.
Finally, Mr. Caleb Cunningham, what has been your greatest legal accomplishment thus far in your career, and how has that shaped your legal philosophy going forward?
So earlier this year, we were able to convict Stephen Ray Inslee of the brutal double murder of Danielle Smith and Teresa Jackson. Those poor women lived everyone's nightmare when their neighbor broke into their house, stabbed them to death, and burned their house down around them. We worked hundreds and hundreds of hours, my team and I, with law enforcement, the medical examiner, trying to make sure that that family got justice for what was done to them. Getting to know that family over the weeks that we were preparing for trial, the nerves, making sure that everything got in, and knowing right after that case, we turned around and did a 4-day jury trial for Jesse DeVore, the former janitor from Camden School, and meeting with those families. It was a tremendously stressful time in my life, but it's something that I will always be grateful for and proud of. Those families warm my heart, and I get a little teary-eyed thinking about them now. The things that they had to endure, but they stuck with it, and if they can stick with it, my team and I owe it to them to make sure that they get the best representation that they possibly can, and that's what we provided them, and that is what secured the conviction on both DeVore and Inslee this year.
Very good. We have time for a few more questions here. All right. We're going to stay general with the same question for all 4 candidates here. We'll start with this one, and Heather, you'll lead us off with this one, I believe. Do you think the court system is working, or do you believe the civil or criminal justice system is breaking down?
All in all, I think our court system is working. Is there room for improvement? Always. Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, we have the best justice system and court system in the United States, well, in the world. The United States court system, our rights, our victims' rights, our representation, the court schedules that ensure that cases not only are heard in a timely fashion, that everybody has the right and opportunity to be heard. When those things are enforced, when the judge keeps their finger on things, then yes, absolutely, those things are working. Is there room for improvement? Always. I have been working in my year and a half on the bench to improve accessibility and the understanding of our court systems. So many people that I meet in the community don't understand their legal system, and frankly, they're embarrassed to ask. And when they're presented in court for the first time, they're in an intimidating place. Their life, their liberty, their family is at risk, and that's not the time to learn about it. But as a judge, I take pride in the fact that I have the opportunity to ensure that that introduction to our court system means that they get the possible experience here in Camden County.
Thank you very much. Moving on down to Rochelle. Do you think the court system is working, or do you believe the civil or criminal justice system is breaking down?
I am so proud to be able to work in Camden County. As part of my private practice, I also practice in a lot of other counties, from Marys to Miller to Morgan to Cole to Laclede. And like I said, I just appreciate our Camden County court system. COVID did set some things back. There is a delay. Some of the cases that we're talking about today, I think the Ensley case that Mr. Cunningham is discussing was 5 or 6 years old. So there's certainly some things that we can improve upon to make sure that justice is not delayed. But part of that is just my depth of experience, being able to look at a case, understand what it's worth, which is what lawyers say. You have to know what a case is worth. And being able to pick the ones, like I said, that you have to dig in your heels on, and the ones that you can move forward and do it efficiently. And I plan to do that very well when elected. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Caleb Cunningham. Do you think this court system is working, or do you believe the civil or criminal justice system is breaking down?
Our system is working. It has overcome tremendous challenges over the past few years, both with the pandemic and also the influx of people here at the lake. We're seeing more people than ever before, and that has put some strain on the system. But we are very fortunate to have some amazing attorneys, both in the private sector and the public sector. We have great judges, clerks, and law enforcement officers, and even the folks, the unsung heroes in the correctional facility here in Camden County. Those people all work together. We have a good working relationship, and we have worked to identify bottlenecks to speed that process up, where there are problems or pinches, and that is the type of teamwork that you want as a taxpayer, but also as somebody who's going through the system, to know that your clerk's office, your prosecutor's office, your judges, the sheriff's office are all working together to see that this process is moving faster and faster. That is the primary complaint that I hear as I'm out and about with folks, and I can assure folks that we're working on keeping that, getting it faster and moving forward as we get through this bottleneck. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ryan Bridges. Do you think the court system is working, or do you believe the civil or criminal justice system is breaking down?
Well, I don't think the system is breaking down as in danger of falling apart. I do think there are some things in Camden County that we can do to improve the experience for the people who have to avail themselves of the justice system. Cases do take way too long to get finally resolved. The longer a case goes, it creates a tremendous financial and mental strain on everybody and every individual involved. And as your next judge, I hope to be able to bring those times down so that it's not as taxing on an individual to try to file a case in Camden County and see it to fruition in a timely manner. I also think there needs to be a greater level of accessibility. And that's what I very much intend to do, is try to set up a way for individuals to ask questions of the courthouse, questions of what's going on at the courthouse at their convenience, so that they can get the answers on their time schedule and not on mine.
Very good. All right. We'll stick with a couple more questions here with all four of you. Actually, let's go just to the judges on this one. Just to the judges. What qualities, and we'll start with Heather on this one. Sorry. What are the top qualities voters should look for in a judge?
Number one is experience. You want not just the experience in handling the wide variety of case types that associate circuit judges handle, but you want a depth of experience in those. Like you said, you're never going to know all the answers to all the cases, but you have to have a firm foundation with which to build on. And even though I spent almost a decade as a prosecutor, that's provided a good foundation. And over the last year and a half, I've handled hundreds upon hundreds of cases of all other types as your associate circuit judge. Expertise. It's not enough to simply be an attorney. You have to be an expert in these fields. I've been recognized across the state for not only knowing what to do, but being at such a level that I've been asked to teach various bodies across the state so that they know what's going on and they're able to represent their clients in the best possible manner. Finally, common sense. An associate circuit judge deals with the people of Camden County, and they have the control of the timelines, the way and the court's handled with the respect to everybody that's involved, and ultimately the disposition of all those cases. And without a good helping of common sense, it's just not going to work the right way.
Mr. Ryan Bridges, what are the top qualities voters should look for in a judge?
Well, in addition to experience, I think for an associate judge, I think that one of the qualities that the public should look at is finding someone that is a dedicated member of this community. I've lived here my entire life, but not just living here. I've been an active member of Rotary, helping raise funds for 40 different local charities every single year. I'm a member of various different local chambers of commerce, and I'm also a member of the Camden County Republican Club. I have spent my entire adult life attempting to be as active of a member of this community as I can, and that would help as an associate judge, because the more active you are in the community, the more opportunities there are for individuals to come up and ask the questions about the court system. And you can be an ambassador for of the judiciary when you are out talking to the people of the community.
All right, we'll do one final question. We'll hit all four candidates on the same question here. It's a more general one. We'll start out with Caleb on this one. Voter turnout is traditionally quite low, especially in a primary election such as this. What would you say to a potential voter to convince them to participate in the political process?
Nothing is more important and impactful on your day-to-day life than your local elections. Your local officials make decisions every day that affect you and your family on a real basis. The prosecutor's race, for which I'm asking for your vote, decides and represents you, the people of Camden County, in state court every day. Every time a crime is committed in this county on the state level, we represent you. Vote for who you want your attorney to be. Do the research, find out who you believe in, and go vote. We need your vote. Let your voice be heard. Please vote Caleb Cunningham, August 2nd.
Mr. Ryan Bridges, voter turnout is traditionally quite low, especially in a primary election such as this. What would you say to a potential voter to convince them to participate in the political process?
I'm going to have to piggyback a little bit on what Caleb said, is that voters need to understand that your local elections are the elections that affect your daily life the most. From presiding commissioner to prosecutor to judge, those are the people that, if you are in the court system, those are the people that you're going to be seeing. And that's who you need to pay the most attention to when you're going into an election. And I feel that right now, this election feels like more people are engaged, and I think we're going to hopefully get a good turnout on August 2nd, and I appreciate your vote, Ryan Bridges, on August 2nd.
Heather Miller, voter turnout is traditionally quite low, especially in primary elections such as this. What would you say to a potential voter to convince them to participate in the political process?
I would tell them that the August 2nd election is the election. Traditionally, voters tend to try and wait to the general election, but for your local politics here in Camden County, by the time of the general election, you only have one candidate remaining. If you want your vote to matter, August 2nd is the date. That is the date that you get to choose who's your prosecutor, who's your presiding commissioner, and most importantly, at least to me, who's your next associate circuit judge. Your vote has the ability to directly impact what happens in the next 4 years of you and your neighbor's life. So please exercise your right, exercise your privilege, and I hope to see you at the polls on August 2nd. Heather Miller for Associate Circuit Judge.
And finally, Michelle, voter turnout is traditionally quite low, especially in primary elections such as this. What would you say to a potential voter to convince them to participate in the political process?
It definitely appears as though our community is getting more and more aware, more and more active of in the political process, truly educating themselves on who the candidates are. Even issues like the associate circuit judge job, just in terms of what does that position even do. I'm hearing more and more people paying attention to the commissioner race as well. This is important because, as they have stated, we are the ones who are going to be on the final ballot in November based on the August election. So please do not wait for November, as Ms. Miller said. If you've been watching local elections at all, some of the elections have come down to less than 10 votes that makes it so that that person is your next elected leader. So it's really important to understand that every vote will count, and bring your friends, your family, everyone that you know to vote, because I believe that voter turnout this time is going to be higher than we've ever seen before.
Thank you very much. That concludes our question and answer portion of the evening, and we will now give each candidate an opportunity to make a closing statement of up to 2 minutes. We will go in reverse order of the opening statements, and again, please be aware of the timekeeper. This is your chance to speak directly to your constituents and ask them for your vote. We'll start down at that end with Caleb Cunningham.
Well, I want to thank you for listening tonight and listening to our answers, and I hope that you have heard something that you like or something that resonated with you. My name is Caleb Cunningham, and I am running for Camden County Prosecuting Attorney. I am your current Camden County Prosecuting Attorney, and my team and I have worked tirelessly to serve you this past year and a half. I am fortunate enough to stand on the shoulders of giants, the people that have come before me, and to continue building that office to be what it is today and what we hope it will be in the future. We now have treatment courts because of the work that my predecessors have done and the work that I was able to contribute. I have been able to put my own piece of brick on this great monolith that we call the court system. I would ask for your vote on August 2nd for Caleb Cunningham for Camden County Prosecuting Attorney, because we have continued building and moving forward. We've gotten 3 life sentences this year. We're being tough on crime. We're representing people. Our office has grown and improved from what it was even a year and a half ago, and I know if you give me the opportunity in 4 years, it will be even better. Thank you again for listening tonight. Caleb Cunningham for Camden County Prosecuting Attorney, August 2nd. Thank you.
Next up, Rochelle, you have 2 minutes.
As I stated in my opening, I would ask you to consider 2 things. The first is experience. I am the candidate with the unmatched experience. I have 22 years of criminal law experience, as I described. I have jury trial experience that is just simply unmatched. And I am so proud and thankful for all the years that I've got to spend working with law enforcement. Some of you may know that in college and law school, I was actually a dispatcher and a jailer and a records clerk for police departments and a sheriff's department. And my work just continued with law enforcement during my time as a prosecuting attorney. I am very honored to have received the endorsement by our Lake of the Ozarks Fraternal Order of Police. And I believe that part of that is because those officers worked with me as the Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. They understood how I am as a prosecutor, and they respected that. The second thing is who you are as a person. There's a saying that says, character is who you are when no one but God is watching. And so I want to take a few minutes just to tell you that I'm a Christian. I am a member of a church and have been for several years. I believe that who someone is outside of politics is important. So my church membership is important to me because that's what I was actually raised in a Southern Baptist church. And as I explained in my opening also, I'm adopted. So for years, I have been our church coordinator for the Pregnancy Help Center and the Baby Bottle campaign. I'm also my church coordinator for Samaritan's Purse, which collects shoe boxes around Thanksgiving to share the gospel around the world. And I'm just a faith-based family person who completely loves this community. We're empty nesters, and so I just cannot wait to be able to jump in and put all that experience and personal stuff to work for Camden County on August 2nd. Rochelle Christensen Grosvenor for Prosecutor. Thank you.
Next candidate with a closing statement, Judge Heather Miller, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much for tuning in tonight and taking time to learn more about us as candidates. I've spoken tonight about my experience, my expertise, and what I believe my common sense has brought to the courts of Camden County over the last year and a half. As you prepare for August 2nd, I would encourage you to talk to your friends and neighbors. There have been thousands upon thousands of people that have had the opportunity to see me work as a judge, and they're the type of people that you need their opinion. You have a real world opportunity to find out how I am as your judge in Camden County and what I've done so far. I want to take this last little bit of time to also talk about service. I've talked about my service to Camden County. And the fact of the matter is that I have dedicated my career to the service of Camden County. And that's something that extends beyond my work in the courtroom. I am a past president of Rotary. I volunteer around the lake with multiple different charitable organizations. My kids come with me because that's not an individual quality, that's something that's important to me to pass down. I am a Little League coach. I believe in giving back to our schools. I'm the proud mom of 2 Lakers. Being a part of this community that I have chosen is something that I take very seriously. And it's extended to where I have put myself outside of the courtroom to make sure that the community has the opportunity and the availability to approach a judge, to ask those questions, to get answers to things they are questioning about their legal system, about the court system, and to make sure that they have somebody that they're comfortable approaching with and that they know is going to tell them the truth. So on August 2nd, I ask you for the honor to continue to serve this community. I'm asking you for your vote as Associate Circuit Judge Heather Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And our final candidate for Associate Circuit Judge, Mr. Ryan Bridges. You have 2 minutes for closing comments.
Thank you. I think Camden County deserves to have a judge that has dedicated to be the long-term solution for this position, and also dedicated to being an active member of the community for the long term. And I believe I'm the right person for that position. As I've talked before, Camden County has given me everything in my life. I grew up here. I was educated here. My first job was here. I met my wife here. We've raised our kids here. This is my home, and I can't think of any better way to repay everything that Camden County has given me than to use the experience I've gained over 15 years of legal practice to serve as your next Associate Circuit Judge and be that long-term solution to that position. My name is Ryan Bridges, and I'm asking for your vote on August 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes our 2022 Camden County Prosecuting Attorney and Associate Circuit Judge Meet the Candidates Forum. Thank you to Lake TV and the Lake Area Chamber of Commerce for all their efforts in producing all of the forums for this election cycle. This valuable service to the voters of our communities would not have happened without the selfless efforts of so many folks. Also, thank you to the candidates for your willingness not only to join us this evening to let the voters hear directly from you, but for your willingness to put your name in the line in an effort to serve your fellow citizens. Thank you to all who tuned in tonight, and make sure you make your voice heard at the polls on August 2nd. Godspeed, everyone. Good night.